Hi guys! Today I'm going to show you how to make a unicorn witch cake. I love the unicorn cakes and all the spins that you can put on them. I saw one like this on Pinterest last year and I thought it would be so fun to make. To start off with, I baked 3 8-inch round cakes. Once they were completely cool, I just leveled off the tops. Next I got out my decorating cake stand as well as a cake board. You'll notice that I put a little piece of non-slip liner between my cake board and my cake stand. I do this so that my cake board doesn't slide around too much while I'm decorating. Next, I put a little bit of frosting in the middle of my cake board and then put my first layer of cake on. I'm putting filling in the middle of the cake, and so I'm using a 1A round piping tip just to make a border around the edge of the cake to keep the filling in. After I've made my border, I'm going to go ahead and get my raspberry filling and place some in the middle. Once the filling is evenly spread, I'm going to go ahead and add my second layer. You'll want to carefully put the second layer on top of the first one, just making sure it lines up. You'll then repeat the same process you just did, making a border of frosting and then adding your filling in the middle. For the last layer of cake, you'll want to flip it over so that the bottom is now the top so that it's nice and smooth and flat when you go to frost it. I take whatever frosting I have left in the bag and just put it right in the seam where the cakes come together. This is going to be the crumb coat, so we're just going to put a thin layer of frosting over the entire cake. It doesn't have to be perfect because you will be putting a final coat of frosting over it. After I've done the crumb coat, I just place it in the fridge for about 20 minutes for it to harden up a little bit. While my cake is chilling, I'm going to work on my unicorn horn, which in this case is actually a witch's hat. I'm going to roll out my black fondant, placing a little bit of cornstarch on the counter and on the rolling pin to prevent it from sticking. You'll want to get it about 1/4 inch thick, and then taking either a round cookie cutter, or if you don't have one you can use a cup, just cut a circle out. This will be for the bottom of the hat. Next you'll take a long strip of black fondant and roll it out so that it's thicker on one end and a little bit thinner and pointy on the other end. Next, take your fondant and start wrapping it around itself to make the shape of a hat. Once you get it the shape that you want, just take a little bit of water and put it in between the layers. When working with fondant, the water acts like glue to hold it together. Make sure it's the right size that you want, and then you'll just take a little bit of water and put it on the bottom, and that will glue it to the round circle that you made for the bottom of the hat. Next, I'm going to make a little ribbon and bow to go on the hat. I don't have any orange fondant, so I'm just going to make some with my white fondant by using yellow and red gel food coloring. I just placed a little bit of food coloring in the middle of the fondant and then rolled it around itself, that way it doesn't get on my fingers too much. Once I got the color that I wanted, I just rolled it out a little bit and then used my rolling pin to flatten it. I rolled it out to about 1/4 inch thickness and then just checked to make sure that it would go around my hat. I used my ruler to cut a straight line. I then went over it with my pizza cutter just to give it a nice clean finish. Next I used my knife just to even out one end and then placed a little bit of water on it so that I can glue it to the bottom of my hat. I don't put water on the whole strip to begin with, just a little bit so I can get it on there and see exactly how long the strip needs to be. Next I'm going to make the bow, so I'm just going to flatten out another piece of orange fondant like I did before. Then I'm going to cut 2 little strips just to make the bows. After I've cut them, I will fold them over on top of each other, as you can see here, just making a small bow, and then using some water to glue it together. Next I need just a small piece to go in the middle of the bow. Once I have it on there, I'm just going to use a little bit of water to put it on my hat. I'm going to put it on the band where the seams meet to cover up that seam. I'm also going to use the end of my paintbrush once it's on there to just open up the bows a little bit. And here is our hat. Next I'm going to make the ears. I'm taking some white fondant like I did before, this time making it green. You'll want to try and get the color the same as your frosting. Once you've got the color that you want, just roll out your fondant and then you will cut 2 triangles. I cut one the size that I want and then just put it over my fondant that's rolled out to cut another one the exact same. Next you'll do the same thing but with the black fondant, this time making a little bit smaller triangles to go in the middle of the green ones. After you have them all cut, you'll just take a little bit of water and glue the black ones right into the middle of the green ones. I wanted my ears to have a little bit of a bend to them, so I just leaned them against a coffee cup on a sheet of parchment paper. I left them there to harden up a little bit while I started frosting the cake. This is going to be the final coat of frosting, so you'll want to try and get it as smooth as possible. I start from the top and work my way down, adding frosting as needed. I continue to go over it with my spatula until I get the finish that I want. Next, I'm going to make the unicorn's eyes, and I do this just by rolling out a little bit of black fondant. I hold it up to the cake to determine how long I want it, and then I cut 2 pieces that are the same length. I shape them and place them onto the cake. My frosting was a little bit wet still, and so they stayed on there, but if they don't, then you can always use a little bit of water to glue them onto the cake. I also used 2 little pieces of black fondant to make eyelashes. I also have 3 different tips that I'm going to use. I'm going to use a 1M for the purple frosting, which will be the bigger rosettes. I start with the purple rosettes, and I just start placing them in the general direction that I want the mane to go. I'm also going to use tips 21 and 22 for the orange and the black frosting. I then use the black and the orange frostings to fill in as necessary. I continue to do this until the mane looks how I want. Once I have most of the mane done, I place the ears on where I want them to go. I then do a little bit of piping around the ears and finish filling in the mane. And lastly, I put the hat on. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. I'm on Instagram at SweetieBee's Bakery, and you can also visit my website, CakingMadeEasy.com.